Or Clips or Suns?
Definitely the Clippers, because I think that with home court advantage going to the Suns, you can win 4 games at home, right? And give up 3 games on the road. So I think the Clippers need Kawhi. And Kawhi probably wants to play and redeem himself, just like we're seeing Paul George stepping up because of what happened last season. So I would say Kawhi needs to be back more for this series than Chris Paul with the Phoenix Suns.
Hello, YouTube world. Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. This is your first time to the channel. Please like, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell so you get the newest and the bonus content first. We put content out every day, so we won't miss any content here. And this is where you hear the real take on the NBA and in sports in general. So let's just go ahead and jump right into what's going on. Can the Clippers overcome a 0-2 deficit again versus the Phoenix Suns? I mean, honestly, you have to ask yourself, if they happen to go down 0-2, can they will themselves back to victory or back to life in this series against this team? It's really going to be hard to do that because, you know, when you look at this team of the Phoenix Suns, they're built with a different edge than the first 2 teams they played. The Luka Doncic experiment, that was really Luka's coming out party of being looked at as a celebrated player more so than what he was last year. He played really good last year too in the playoffs against the Clippers, but this year he really actually, you know, outshined the Clippers in a lot of ways for a couple of games until, you know, Kawhi and company just took over the series, and Kawhi got on him a little bit defensively and kind of altered some of the things that he does. And then, you know, they go into the series with Donovan Mitchell. You know, the Utah Jazz goes up 2 games. And then the world started to panic. You know, everybody just, you know, all the naysayers just started to say, well, Donovan Mitchell is the better player in the series. Same thing they did with Luka, but they were saying that Utah was going to win and everything like that. And we know how that ended up. You know, the Clippers went on and took them out in 6, just like I said. Well, maybe I said 7. I'm not exactly sure, but I did say the Clippers were going to win that series. But at the same time, honestly, they might have even 5 games, you know. Well, I'm not going to say it will beat them in 5 games, but I mean, I will say this. I had more confidence in the Clippers winning, of course, when they had Kawhi Leonard there rather than, you know, when Kawhi went out. But, I mean, the Clippers really showed resilience. And like I said, that series is over with because the better team won. So my point is this. In this series here, it'll be 2 times harder because you look at yesterday's game, you lost a game where Chris Paul wasn't there. And, you know, the biggest thing about the Suns that I noticed, they go through stretches where they don't, where they have, like, you know, where they're not scoring. And it's because they don't have Chris Paul. And see, that's the thing. Like, if you go through stretches where you're not scoring because you don't have your best player, it shows out on the court. And that's just a weakness that a lot of teams will exploit. And my thing is this. Yesterday, if you look at the game, the Clippers had the game in hand because before, you know, Devin Booker kind of went on that run of his that he went on. I mean, the Clippers were well endowed to win that game. They were close. They kept it close. Playoff P was hitting some big shots in I think the third quarter, some big threes back to back in the third quarter. And, you know, Reggie was playing the way he usually does. You know, and they even inserted Rondo in there. Rondo hit some big shots in the fourth quarter, things like that. They cut it to a 2-point game at the end of the game, so they actually had an opportunity to win yesterday's game. But the difference is they had their best, to me, they had their best player. And I know a lot of people say Chris Paul is the best player on the Phoenix Suns, and arguably so. He could be looked at as the best player on there, but when you look at Devin Booker and what he's capable of doing, what he showed yesterday, he definitely solidified himself as the best player on the Phoenix Suns to me yesterday, because without Chris Paul, he was asked to do something that he never does, which is control the ball, get everybody else going, and get his shot going. And he did exactly that. And, you know, he played hard, and he ended up with a 40-point triple-double, which is only like 4 people have done, I think, in the conference finals, like ever. So, I mean, big shout out to him. But this is my point. You know, you have to psychologically think. I mean, in theory, if the Clippers do go down 0-2 against this team, you know, you have to ask yourself, can they make a comeback in this series against the Phoenix Suns? Because, I mean, Phoenix is Phoenix is a really good team. And when you look at yesterday's game, they had 6 players in double figures. And that is distributing the wealth exactly how you're supposed to. And the Clippers had, I think 3 or 4, something like that. I can't remember the numbers too much off the top of my head, but I know, Paul George had 34. I think Reggie Jackson had 24. And I do know that we were missing. I do know that Marcus Morris was missing as well. He had a knee injury, I think, itself. So, that we have to see how that goes going forward. That could be something that could really, tamper with, the Clippers' plans as far as going to the finals. But I mean, it's going to be a tough series. I do, after looking at yesterday's game, I do believe this one's going to go 7 games. I do believe the Clippers can edge it out, but it's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be close, because when you look at the Phoenix Suns, like I said, they may not get Chris Paul back next game, but I do think they probably get him back game 3 or game 4. And if they get Chris Paul back game 3 going into LA, that's going to be a tough outing for them, because they're going to be on the home floor of the Clippers, and the fans are going to be ready to go and the team's going to be ready to go. But at the same time, the Suns will have their quarterback. And to me, when you have your floor general there to calm everything down, it's going to make the Suns even deadlier, because the problem with the Suns is they go through these dry spells like you saw yesterday's game, because they didn't have Chris Paul. Chris Paul definitely control is the anchor. You know what I'm saying? He definitely controls how everything is. He doesn't score the most points. He's not the best player on the team to me, as far as putting the team on his back. He's not the best player in that regards, but I mean, he is one of the best players on the team in regards to getting everybody where they need to be and how they're supposed to be and in what position they're supposed to be most effective. And like I said, you can argue that he's the best player on the team, but I just think Devin Booker kind of really, separated himself yesterday by what he did and what he's shown, because to me, the Clippers had that game won, and Devin Booker erupts, and then he gets 10 assists along with that. I mean, that's more than enough. That's more than you can ask for from a player like him, who never does that and goes out there and do it with no problem. So to me, you got to look at it like, with Chris Paul coming back, it's going to make it tougher for the Clippers. But at the same time, like I said, yesterday was a game for the Clippers to win, because Chris Paul wasn't there and they didn't win. So this is what I'm saying. You will go back to LA with a 1-1 tie series if you win tomorrow. And if Chris Paul comes back, that's only going to make them even a better team. So what I'm saying is, if you go down 0-2 possibly, it's going to be even tougher, because with Chris Paul is more likely going to come back, it's going to be tough to beat them. And then on top of that, you don't know what the status of Kawhi Leonard is. Hopefully, like I said, he makes a quick return. And then on top of that, you have to look at too, if Kawhi doesn't come back for some reason, it's going to be even tougher for them to come back from an 0-2 hole, which is the reason why tomorrow's game is so vitally important for them, because I don't know if they can come back from a 2-0 hole or a 0-2 deficit without Kawhi Leonard. Because if you look at the first 2 series, they did that because they had their best player. And they didn't do that. They didn't come back from an 0-2 hole without their best player. You know what I'm saying? It's really, I'm not saying the Clippers can't do it if that's what was to happen tomorrow, if they leave tomorrow's game in Phoenix. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to come back in a series, you definitely need all your firepower. And I don't know if Paul George is good enough to come back from 0-2 by himself, because Paul George is good, but I don't think Paul George plays the level of defense that he used to when he was on Indiana. I feel like he was a better defender when he was on Indiana back then than he is now. I still feel like he can score really good at times, because he's a streaky shooter, but the defense that he used to play, lockdown defense, or at one point in time in his career where he played a much better defense anyway, he doesn't play that much defense now. He plays it good, but not to the level I thought that he once played defense. I mean, one time I thought, his defense was up there, but now it's like he focuses more on the offensive end. And I understand, because, he's asked to do more offensively, especially over the last couple of years, in his career. So I get that. But my point is, you don't want to go down 0-2 to Phoenix because you don't have your best player to help rally the troops back from that type of deficit. Because you have to understand, at some point, DeAndre Ayton is going to get more points. At some point, DeAndre Ayton is going to get Zubac in foul trouble or Nicholas Batum in foul trouble. And then you're going to find yourselves in a situation where you're going to have, less rim protection. And now Devin Booker can get to the rim and he doesn't have to stop and pop for his 17-foot jumper, which he's actually deadly at that. But you're going to have to you're going to have to find a way to get more contribution from everybody on the Clippers, because this is going to be a tougher series than what a lot of people even envision. Because even without Chris Paul, what we saw yesterday, I'm not sure Devin Booker is going to give another 40-point triple-double, but he really doesn't need to, because if you look at yesterday's game, Cameron Payne was in and out the game. He kind of stayed in foul trouble, and it was kind of like back and forth between him and E'Twaun Moore, I think his name was, who came in the game, and there was getting a lot of playing time there. But if Cameron Payne doesn't get in foul trouble or like that too often, it's really going to be tough for the Clippers, because you got to deal with his left hand going to the basket. He's fast, he's quick, and he's really good off the dribble. And like I said, he can knock down a three as well. And some of the passes that he made yesterday also goes unnoticed. But if you look at some of the passes he made yesterday to DeAndre Ayton going to the basket, DeAndre Ayton really, those were Chris Paul type plays. And this is my point. When you look at that in its entirety, like, how do you counteract that? Because if Devin Booker can give me 8 or 10 assists, if we need him to, and then you add the fact that Cameron Payne puts pressure on your defense scoring wise just by getting to the basket the way he can, blowing by defenders, and then on top of that, finding DeAndre Ayton, who's just a monster all on his own, it's going to be tough to beat this team. It's going to be really tough. And like I said, the one thing with the Phoenix Suns, I've watched them in the first couple series. They get better as the series goes on. One thing about Phoenix, I've been watching them this year. They don't slack as the series go on. They get better as the series goes on. Devin Booker had a 47-point game earlier in this playoffs against, I think, the Lakers, and showed everybody that he's for real. They actually swept the damn Denver Nuggets. Honestly, they swept the MVP. They didn't, Jokic was the MVP of the league. They swept this team. This team didn't win a game. So it's like, when you look at what the Suns are able to do and how they, do their defense and run their sets, and Monty Williams is a really good coach, Ty Lue is really going to have to try to figure out a way to win this game, win this series, because this is a chess match right here, I think, because you got Paul George, and Paul George can go out there and light it up. We know that. Reggie Jackson, one of them is going to light it up, but there has to be a third guy every game this series. You cannot win none of these. The Clippers are not going to win any of these games this series if they don't have that third guy to come out there and give them 17 to 20 points every night consistently. They're not going to win, because it's like, when you look at the Suns, like I said, they distribute the wealth the best in the league. Like, honestly, they're probably the best team in the league right now in the playoffs in regards to, getting everybody involved offensively. 6 players in double figures is not an easy thing to do. So for you to get that much contribution from different areas, that shows how good of a team and how well balanced you are. So what I'm saying is, the Clippers, in order for them to win this series, which I believe they can, but they got to have a solidified third guy. So if it's going to be PG and, Reggie Jackson, they got to have that third guy. That third guy has got to have 18, 19 points on average every game. And it can't be anything less, because I'm telling you, when you look at how the Suns play, everybody gets a piece of the pie with this team. Even though Devin Booker had 40, they still had 6 players in double figures. That's playing high level basketball, especially at this level. So you gotta give you gotta give them credit, based upon what they've done so far. Yeah. So like I said, this series right here is going to be, awfully difficult for the Clippers if they make it more difficult for themselves. I mean, Ty Lue is great at making adjustments, so I can't wait to see the next game to see exactly what adjustments that he made, that are going to make. But you're going to have to find a way to slow down the Suns some. They cannot have 6 players in double figures every game. And you can't have, 2 players. You cannot not have that third player show up for the Clippers every time. Now, hopefully, like I said, maybe, good things, miracles happen. Maybe Kawhi Leonard comes back in game 3, maybe possibly game 4. And, they can get it going that way, with him. But I'm telling you, if they go down 0-2 in this series, and if Kawhi doesn't happen to come back, it's going to be really tough for this team to win this series, because I think Phoenix just has too much firepower from different areas. Now, I will say this. Now, I do think that the Clippers, if they lock down defensively and make the games ugly, they can possibly win this series still. But like I said, you cannot have 6 players going to double figures with 1 player having a 40-point triple-double. You're not going to beat this team if you're going to get contributions like that. And like I said, if they get Chris Paul back, Devin Booker won't need to have a 40-point triple-double. Only thing he'll need to do is exactly what he's been doing, which is killing teams from the mid-range and shooting the lights out, with CP3 just controlling the game, being the anchor. So, I mean, really in this series, I'm almost tempted to say this series might actually, go 7 games. Like, I believe it will, but it can go the Clippers' way if the Clippers get that third player to consistently get close to 20 points a night, and that would be Marcus Morris. But like I said, I got to see how his knee is going forward. And the Clippers are going to have to make some of these games ugly. They can't go, I need a couple ugly games. I need a couple 96 to or 90, 98 to maybe like 94, Clippers. Something like that, 96 to 89, Clippers. They're going to have to win some of these games like that, because if you think you're just going to outshoot Phoenix the whole time, that's not going to happen, because the Phoenix Suns, if you look at yesterday's game, there were a lot of times where the Clippers would go on an 8-0 run, but Phoenix would answer with a 10-0 run. The Clippers would go on a 11-0 run, and then Phoenix would answer with an 8-0 run. You see what I'm saying? It's like back and forth, like a heavyweight fight. And this is what I'm saying. When you're playing a team that has that type of capability, who can put up points like you can, and got the defenders that they have, it's going to be really tough. And like I said, if you look at the Phoenix Suns and the other series, they get better as the series goes on. So when you look at Jay Crowder, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, guys like that, or Torrey Craig, these guys can defend the perimeter. So when they lock down defensively, you got to look at it. When they start to lock down defensively, the Clippers are going to have to match that intensity on defense, because those are really, really good perimeter defenders. And all the guys I just named can knock down a 3-pointer as well. So when you look at the Clippers, they're going to have to sustain what they're doing, and they're going to have to sustain what they have been doing defensively, but they're going to have to add to their offense some, because like I said, you don't even want, let alone 6 players in double figures, you don't want 5 players in double figures on the Phoenix Suns, because I think when Phoenix has that type of balanced scoring, usually they win, because it's like, first of all, you don't know where it's coming from. And then on top of that, they got their closer. And I say their closer and their best player in Devin Booker, who can alter a lot of these games down the stretch. Now, last game here, he didn't play as well in the fourth quarter. Well, he played pretty decent, but I think he went he had a stretch where he went like 0 for 5 or something like that in the fourth quarter. He kind of cooled off some, but at the same time, it doesn't really matter, because like I said, with the talent that they have and the defense that they have, I mean, it's going to really be tough, because like I said, Suns got perimeter defenders in Jay Crowder, Torrey Craig, and Mikal Bridges, but they also got a rim protector in DeAndre Ayton. So it's like when you play them, you have to you have to execute offensively at a high level, and that's the only way you're going to beat them. But like I said, you can beat them in some ugly games if you make the game ugly, like make it, all defensive and, rugged, play physical basketball. You can wear them down, and that's what the Clippers going to have to do. They're going to have to try to wear them down, play some rugged, ugly basketball defensively, just get up in them defensively and just wear the team down as the series goes on, because like I said, that's your best chance of beating this team, because if you're not going to have Kawhi Leonard with the perimeter defenders that they have, it's really going to be tough. Now, as far as the Clippers, hey, Clippers got some perimeter defenders too. So this is what I'm saying. Make the games ugly, play that rough defense, play that rugged defense, because that's what you're going to need. Because like I said, if Chris Paul comes back in game 2 or game 3, you really might be in trouble, because now, if the Clippers, like I said, let's say Chris Paul comes back game 3, now, the series is tied 1-1 possibly after tomorrow, but Phoenix is good enough to get a game in LA. I'm not saying they will win a game in LA, but they're good enough to win a game in LA, because like I said, they play good at home, but they play good on the road too. And it's like, I just feel like this series right here is going to show we need Kawhi Leonard more than ever, because you're going to see the Phoenix Suns make adjustments to where the Clippers are going to have to fall back in some of the rotations and some of the execution that they're trying to do. Like the Boogie Cousins experiment. Boogie Cousins is good. I love the way Boogie played yesterday. But I feel like Monty Williams is going to find a way to take him out, or find a way to neutralize any offense or anything that he can give us coming into the game. Because like I said, when you look at Phoenix, they have the perimeter defenders and they got the rim protector. And it's like, we don't have that. You know what I'm saying? Like Nicholas Batum is a pretty good, defender. He is. He's really been great. But rim protector, that's really not what he is. But he can block some shots, but we don't have a DeAndre Ayton. So, like I said, the series can go our way if we find a way to if we can get 3 or 4 of their players in double figures and neutralize a few other players, we have a great chance. But if they're going to get 5 and 6 players in double figures going forward, it's going to take 7 games to beat them if they're going to get that type of production. And I don't expect them to get that type of production going forward. I feel like we can, as a team, as a unit, I feel like the Clippers can, just find a way to neutralize some of the things they do. And it's going to start with getting Devin Booker off his spots. When Devin Booker gets in that mid-range, I'd say elbow or top of the key, that's where he likes it the most. And this is what I'm saying. The Clippers are going to have to find a way to override that. You can't allow that to happen, because that's his sweet spot. So maybe not send a double team there, but I like to see Paul George more on Devin Booker, because like I said, I don't believe Paul George is as good as a defender as he was, but I feel like Paul George can neutralize some things that Devin Booker does. Because that's really the only way it's going to work, because I know it's asking a lot out of Paul George, because Paul George is going to have to score 30 plus points every game. I know it's a lot to ask out of Paul George, but at the same time, I think that's the only chance the Clippers really have, because if you let this young boy keep going the way he is, Devin Booker is proven to be a superstar right before our eyes, a superstar in the making. You know what I'm saying? So if you keep letting him go one-on-one with maybe like a Patrick Beverley or somebody like that, they can bother him some, but they're not going to bother him enough to help the Clippers get over the hump. The Clippers are going to have to find a way to get more contribution defensively from Paul George on Devin Booker. I think that's the only way it's really going to work, because, like I said, if Devin Booker's going to go off for 30 or 40 every game, along with the rest of the team playing the way they are, and if they do get Chris Paul back, and if we don't get Kawhi back, it's just going to make it all hell for us, because, like I said, as a team, the Clippers are good, but at some point, like I said, if you're down in series 0-1, 0-2, at some point it's going to wear on you. At some point it's going to wear you down. And like I said, the Clippers have made some 2 miraculous comebacks in 2 different series, and it's been amazing to see. But those first 2 times they had Kawhi Leonard, you know what I'm saying? And having a player like him really shows Kawhi Leonard's value, because Kawhi is still that good defensively. Kawhi is still that good to go out there and lock up a Devin Booker and still give 30 on this end. I haven't seen Paul George do it in a while. And what I'm saying is, unless Paul George takes Devin Booker the rest of this series, it might be a really long series, because that's really the only way it's going to have to work. I mean, he's going to have to take Devin Booker. He's going to have to stop what Devin Booker does. He's going to have to neutralize him. And he's still going to have to put up 30 plus points on the other end. That's the only way it's going to work. And like I said earlier, and you know, they're going to need a third player. They're going to need that third contribution. And if Marcus Morris is going to be, you know, if he's going to, you know, if his knee is lame right now, if he can't do it, you know, it's really going to be tough for the Clippers, because I don't know who you're going to ask to be that consistent third player for 6-7 games. I just don't know who it's going to be, you know. Because like I said, I don't know. I don't think it could be Rondo. Even though Rondo can play really good, but you know, Rondo in stretches, you know, he can shoot. Then in stretches he can't. You know, so it's like he's more of a facilitator. And I don't know if they trust Terrence Mann to be that third scorer like that every game consistently. I feel like Terrence Mann is going to play really good, but I mean, to ask him to be a 20-plus point guy consistently, I don't know if he can do that. I mean, he might can. I'm not saying he can't, but you know, to do it on the road and at home is 2 different things. I believe in home games, a lot of players can hit a lot of shots, but can they hit them same shots on the road when you need them to in hostile situations? And that's what's going to come down to. Can the Clippers get that type of contribution? Can they get, you know, can they get that consistently? Even if they do have Marcus Morris, they got to get a consistent 19 from Marcus Morris every game this series. It can't be nothing less than 19. Reggie can't score nothing less than 23. And Paul George can't score nothing less than 30. Not unless they get Kawhi Leonard back. Then they'll be in full rotation and full flux how they're supposed to be. Because everybody can go back to their natural position. Everybody can play exactly how they're supposed to and play within their means. Because that's when the Clippers are at their best, when they play within their means. Now, these last couple games, like I said, against Utah, it worked out. But, I mean, you're playing a different animal this series. And I can tell you, looking at game 1, I mean, is a signs of things to come in this series. And I just hope that the Clippers find a way to win tomorrow, because, you know, game 2 is very important. I'm almost tempted to say game 2 is just as important or should be looked at tomorrow for the Clippers as a game 7. I'm almost tempted to say that, because you can't go down 0-2 3 straight series and think you're always going to make a comeback. It's just awfully hard. And like I said, when you don't have all your weapons there and you're missing your leader in Kawhi Leonard, that 0-2 hole is going to seem deeper, because you don't have the likes of somebody like him to go stop and neutralize a Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell, or, you know, a Devin Booker, or, you know, a Luka Doncic or somebody like that. You got to have a player like him to go neutralize them. And that's just what the Clippers don't have. Because like I said, I'm not sure if Paul George can play at that level defensively like he could and still give you 30 plus points. But my point is, tomorrow night, game 2 is everything for the Clippers. You know, you can't go down 0-2, especially if they don't have Chris Paul. If you go down 0-2 to this team and they don't have Chris Paul, it's going to be even more tough to win this series. It's going to be even more tough, because you went down 0-2 against a team that didn't have what a lot of people consider their best player. So if you go 0-2 to a team who a lot of people consider don't even have their best player, well, you're definitely going to lose probably to this team when they do get their best player back, if you don't get yours. So, you know, and that's what most people would say anyway. So it's like the odds become more challenging, you know, the road becomes more tough, and, you know, getting to that finish line, you know, it looks a lot more, it looks less and less, you know, possible for the Clippers if they don't win tomorrow, because me personally, I can't see them going 0-2 against the Suns without Chris Paul. I can't personally see. I think the Clippers pull it out tomorrow, next game. I think the Clippers find a way to win. At least I hope they do anyway, because, they show a lot of adversity and they show a lot of resilience. I mean, these playoffs. So I think they can continue that. And I just want to say one thing too. Looking at the Philadelphia 76ers go out against the Atlanta Hawks, it makes me think that the Clippers really actually made the right decision in letting Doc Rivers go, because there again, Doc Rivers had a 20-something point lead in one game, with the Philadelphia 76ers, an 18-point lead in another game. And somehow the 76ers lose to a fifth seed or a fourth seed, I believe. No, a fifth seed in the Atlanta Hawks when they clearly had the better team. And it just seems like everywhere Doc Rivers goes, it's just like, something's going wrong. So I feel like the Clippers made the right decision by letting him go. I know the Clippers are definitely happy they made that decision, because Ty Lue has just been so much more better than Doc Rivers, adjustments wise, coaching wise, and everything, all the above. So, I'm glad the Clippers got rid of that problem. And that's why he's in home and the Clippers are still actually alive. So, I mean, hey, sometimes things work out for the best. And I think that situation did. But I mean, like I said, just leave any comments in the comment section on the game and what you think and exactly how you think it's going to go, and how you think the game tomorrow is going to play out, and how the Clippers are going to rally. Do you think the Clippers are going down 0-2, or you think they'll tie at 1-1? And hey, you think Chris Paul or Kawhi either want to come back? Leave any comments in the comment section. Let me know what you think about tomorrow, the next game 2, and the series, and we could just converse about it and go from there. And Cali out.